So we're continuing in Tarech of Gimel. This recording is from Yerushalayim HaKodesh. Zachisi to be Simchas Purim in Yerushalayim. And hopefully the Avir D'Eretz Yisrael Machkim will give us an opening and understanding and asking more questions. What we're doing now is trying to be medayik. Again, we're not looking for answers. Sometimes the answers come and you can't help yourself and you see some kind of an eitzah here. But I'm trying to teach how I learn in order to get to the bigger messages that are hidden here, not just the global eitzah, but how the eitzah is practical for each and every one of us, and how it can transform our lives, and how we can actually change using the Rebbe's eitzahs. So we said about the mashal. The Rebbe was talking about the Iyun of Simcha, that there's a mashal. The mashal is that there are a group of dancers, Smeichem and Meragdim, and that from the infectious Simcha that they're feeling Sameach, that the Smeichem and Meragdim, they go and grab a guy out from the outside, that is Ba'atzas Amarashchara. They bring him in against his will into the circle of dancers, and they force him to be Sameach Imayim Gamken, and we medayik called it the Yukum of the Imayim and Gamken. And now we're going into the Nimshal. Says the Heilige Rebbe, Kain yesh be'inyan ha-simcha. So too is in the Inyan of Simcha. Ki. Because, Adam sameach, when a person is happy, Azai hamarashchara v'yisurim nestalkem atzad. Then his depression and his pain remove itself from the side. We have to really analyze each word here. So too in the Inyan of ha-simcha, and the mashal that the Rebbe brought is really from a mashal of Simcha, which is very strange. I don't know if we said this, we spoke this out before, but usually when you bring a mashal, there's two things about a mashal. When I want to explain a bigger idea that is harder to explain, so I take a concept of a smaller idea, usually from a different topic, to be able to explain the bigger idea in the other topic. What's very interesting here is that the Rebbe brings a mashal where the mashal is on the same topic. It's not just, it's a component of the Inyan HaSimcha. So he wants to explain us the bigness of Inyan HaSimcha from a mashal of Smeichem and Meragdim. It's interesting and strange. It's not usually the derech of a mashal. Unless perhaps, and we medayik these words, why did the Rebbe say the words al pi mashal? What does he mean al pi mashal? B'derech mashal, al derech mashal, lim mashal. Al pi, what is al pi? So I think we may have mentioned it before that we spoke out, that I heard this from Rabbi Jonathan Rietti, al pi ha-be'er. What does it mean al pi ha-be'er? That is the access. It means the access way to access Inyan HaSimcha. The gateway is al pi mashal, which would mean normally when I give a mashal, the mashal is just a mashal. Once I understand the nimshal, the mashal is like an akdam. It's an introduction for me to be able to understand this. I'm giving a mashal. But maybe the Rebbe is telling us that this particular Inyan HaSimcha is the gateway of accessing this eitzah, of transforming your atzvus into simcha, is always al pi this mashal. That means you have to visualize and understand this mashal as your gateway and as your alpi, your access point. Just like a peh is the access to the pnim, to the internal part of the person. You see doctors, when they want to do something internally, usually the access is through the mouth. So that means the access to getting to this eitzah, to getting to this infectious place of Inyan HaSimcha, which we still don't understand, what does Inyan HaSimcha mean? But the access is through the mashal. So if that's true, then we're going to need to find in the nimshal all the different, every part of the mashal. And if the nimshal tells us something different than the mashal, then we have to understand why. So the Rebbe is telling us, now I'm going to the nimshal. Kain yesh be'inyan hasimcha. So too is in this Inyan hasimcha. Ki, because Adam sameach, when a person is happy. So hang on a second. Ki, what is this word because? Why is the Rebbe saying because? Really, the Rebbe could have said Kain yesh be'inyan hasimcha. Adam sameach, when a person is happy. He's saying no. Ki, because. What's this because? And then the Rebbe again now goes Kisha Adam Sameach. And if you remember, we were medayik that he started off B'nei Adam Smeichim U'Meraglim, and then he said, As I chayt from Ish Echad Mibachutz. And we asked, why does the Rebbe change the Lashon from B'nei Adam, which is plural, to the singular of Ish? And now the Rebbe goes back in the singular, he calls it Adam. So what's the difference between Adam and Ish? Kish Adam Sameach, seems like when he's talking about Kish Adam Sameach, it's not the inyan of Has Simcha. It's not even Simcha. It's the emotion of Sameach. Then the Marash Chayra, the depression, and the Yisurim remove itself from the side. It's very interesting because earlier in the Mashal, the Rebbe talked about Atzvus and Marash Chayra, and he didn't mention Yisurim. And now when he's talking about the inyan of Simcha, he's talking about Marash Chayra and Yisurim, what happened to Atzvus? Where did the Atzvus go? So let's try to expand on this a little bit. What is Atzvus? Atzvus is an emotion. Atzvus is sadness. I feel sad. I feel gloomy. Marash Chayra is a state. I am in a state of depression. What does that mean? I'm trapped. I'm not just feeling an emotion. I followed that emotion, and that emotion put me into a certain state, which is more severe than the Atzvus. And Yisurim, l'chayra, whether it's emotional, spiritual, physical, Yisurim, is what the Marash Chayra brings to. So it's even a more severe place. So when the person's, in the mashal, when we were talking about the people who are smeichem and meragdim, and they grab the guy from the outside, over there, it's Atzvus and Marash Chayra. It doesn't mean he doesn't have Yisurim. I don't know his Yisurim. I don't know his pain. But you can tell that the person is sad, gloomy, and sometimes you can even tell that he's in a state of depression. The Rebbe is even telling us that if he's bachutz, he's guaranteed to be in that state. Not that we know that, but the Rebbe is giving us that understanding. So when the emotion of sameach happens, when I feel happy, I'm joyous because I'm infected by something that brings joy to me, and it seems like that thing is external, and we need to really understand it is simcha, something that's external or internal. But what happens is those two emotions cannot live together. If I'm atzvus, if I'm sad, then I'm not sameach. If I'm sameach, my atzvus disappears. I'm not sure that if when I'm ba'atzvus, my sameach disappears, because if simcha is internal, it means maybe that I'm just disconnected. I'm not connected to myself. I'm not connected to the real me. And with that, we need to a little bit define and understand that a little bit better. What does the Rebbe mean here? But one thing we could see here is that when we're talking about our own internal circle of atzvus, Marash Chayra, and simcha, and sameach, atzvus disappears with sameach. However, the state that atzvus has brought me to, and the pain that I'm feeling, is still in the picture. It just removes itself to the side because the joy overpowers it. But the Rebbe is saying something more. It's not because my joy is over. Of course, it's the joy that's overpowering, but it's because atzvus, Marash Chayra, and Yisurim are allergic to sameach. As soon as they see sameach, they remove itself. They move away because they know this is a state that you're in right now. You're feeling sameach, which we need to understand. If I'm feeling sameach, then I'm in a state of simcha. And when I'm feeling atzvus, I'm not yet in a state of Marash Chayra? Perhaps yes, because if simcha is something that's really internal, and that's the real me, so as soon as I get joy, my joy is because I'm connecting to me. So if I'm connecting to me, I'm in a state of joy. I'm not just feeling joyous. It makes me into a state. Is it mamish? So is sameach mamish simcha? Perhaps, I'm not sure. But one thing's for sure, atzvus, I could be sad and not let myself get to the state where I'm trapped in my sadness. And so when I'm sameach, I cannot be ba'atzvus. That is something that is conflicting for sure. Can I be sameach when I'm ba'atzvus? I'm not sure. We'll see that in the next Torah. We're not sure yet. So let's just leave this out. So one thing we see clear here is that sameach takes away atzvus. But Marish Chayra and Yisurim, they stay on the side. They stay in the picture and they stay on the side. What are they doing on the side? A, they're allergic to the Sameach. So as soon as they see me becoming joyous, my own sadness, my depression, my pain removes itself to the side. On the side, they're still in the picture. So the question is, another question here. Nistalkin min hatzad. First of all, nistalkin means it removes itself, not it's being removed, it removes itself. And why does this say nistalkin min hatzad? It should say nistalkin la hatzad. It moves to the side. But the Rebbe is being medayik min hatzad, and we need to understand this min hatzad. And now we need to understand something else. Is this already the nimshal, or is this the platform to the nimshal? These are all questions. Not all of these questions do I have answers, but I think that every question, even if they're not good questions, will bring us to a bigger understanding of how to actually do this Eitzah internally. So let's continue. Aval.